Hello students, welcome to the PD Life Science Academy for the Happy Learning. नीट एक्झामचे प्रिपरेशन जे विद्यार्थी करत आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी बेसिक कन्सेप्ट लर्निंग आणि लिंकिंग ऑफ कन्सेप्ट हे जेवढे गरजेचे आहे तेवढेच NCERT बुकमधील चॅप्टरचे कंटेंट रीड करणे आवश्यक आहे. हे करत असताना फक्त एक रीडिंग करून चालणार नाही, मल्टिपल टाइम्स रिव्हिजन होणे गरजेचे आहे. यात टाळाटाळ करणे चांगले नव्हे. आपण सेट केलेले टार्गेट अचीव करण्यासाठी PD लाईफ सायन्स अकॅडमीने सर्व स्टुडंटसाठी जे नीट एक्झामचे प्रिपरेशन करीत आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी 21 डे रीडिंग चॅलेंजची सुरुवात केली आहे. रोज एका चॅप्टरचे रीडिंग आपण कंप्लीट करणार आहोत. हे चॅलेंज ज्या विद्यार्थ्यांनी ॲक्सेप्ट केले आहे त्यांनी त्यांचे डेली टार्गेट अचीव केल्यावर कॉमेंट करून सांगायचे आहे. सो लेट्स गेट रेडी फॉर टेकिंग रीडिंग चॅलेंज. ऑल द व्हेरी बेस्ट. थँक यू. 21 Day Biology Reading Challenge, Day 17 Reading Challenge, Chapter number 17 from NCERT Biology textbook of 11th Standard. Name of chapter is a breathing and the exchange of gases. As you have read earlier, the oxygen is utilized by the organism to indirectly break down the simple molecules like the glucose, amino acids, fatty acid, etc. to derive the energy to perform the various activities. The carbon dioxide, which is harmful, is also released during the above catabolic reaction. It is therefore evident that oxygen has to be continuously provided to the cell, and the carbon dioxide produced by the cell have to be released out. This process of the exchange of oxygen from the atmosphere with the CO2 produced by the cell is called as a breathing, commonly known as a respiration. Place your hand on chest and you can feel the chest movement up and down. You know that it is due to the breathing. How do we breathe? The respiratory organ and the mechanism of the breathing are described in the following section of this chapter. Now the 17.1 is the respiratory organ. Mechanism of the breathing vary among the different groups of the animals depending mainly on the habitat and the level of organization. Lower vertebrate like the sponges, coleonterates, flatworms, etc. exchange the oxygen with the CO2 by simple diffusion over their entire body surface. Earthworm use their moist cuticle, and the insect have a network of the tube that is known as a tracheal tubes to transport the atmospheric air within the body. The specific vascularized structure called as a gills, also known as a bronchial respiration, is used by the most of the aquatic arthropods and the mollusks, whereas the vascularized bags called as a lungs, or it is also known as a pulmonary respiration, are used by the terrestrial forms for the exchange of gases. Among the vertebrates, the fishes use the gills, whereas the amphibian, reptiles, birds and the mammals respire through the lungs. The amphibian, like the frogs, can respire through their moist skin and the cutaneous respiration also. 17.1.1 is a human respiratory system. We have pair a external nostril opening out above the upper lip. It leads to the nasal chamber through the nasal passage. The nasal chamber opens into the pharynx, the portion of which is the common passage for the food and the air. The pharynx opens through the larynx region into the trachea. The larynx is the cartilaginous box which helps in a sound production and hence called as a sound box. During the swallowing, glottis can covered by the thin elastic cartilaginous flap called as a epiglottis to prevent the entry of the food into the larynx. The trachea is the straight tube extending up to the mid-thoracic cavity, which divides at the level of the fifth thoracic vertebra into the right and the left primary bronchi. Each bronchi undergoes the repeated division to form a secondary and the tertiary bronchi and the bronchioles, ending up in a very thin terminal bronchioles. The trachea, primary, secondary and the tertiary bronchi and initial bronchioles are supported by the incomplete cartilaginous ring. Each terminal bronchiole gives rise to the number of a very thin irregular wall and the vascularized bag-like structure called as alveoli. The branching network of the bronchioles and the alveoli comprises the lungs. We have two lungs which are covered by the double layer pleura with a pleural fluid between them. It reduces the friction on the lung surface. The outer pleural membrane is in a close contact with the thoracic lining, whereas the inner pleural membrane is in the contact with the lung surface. The part starting with the external nostril up to the terminal bronchioles constitute the conducting parts, whereas the alveoli and their duct form a respiratory or a exchange part of the respiratory system. The conducting part transport the atmospheric air to the alveoli, clears it from the foreign particles, humidified, and also brings the air to the body temperature. Exchange part is the site of actual diffusion of the oxygen and the carbon dioxide between the blood and the atmospheric air. The lungs are situated in the thoracic chamber, which is the anatomically an airtight chamber. The thoracic chamber is formed dorsally by the vertebral column and ventrally by the sternum, the lateral by the ribs, and on the lower side by the dome-shaped diaphragm. The anatomical setup of the lungs in a thorax is such that the change in the volume of the thoracic cavity will reflect in the lungs, that is known as a pulmonary cavity. Such the arrangement is essential for the breathing, as we cannot directly alter the pulmonary volume. The respiration involves the following steps. First is the breathing or a pulmonary ventilation, by which the atmospheric air is drawn in and the carbon dioxide rich alveolar air is released out. Second is the diffusion of the gases, that is the oxygen and the carbon dioxide across the alveolar membrane. Third is the transport of gases by the blood. Fourth is the diffusion of oxygen and the carbon dioxide and CO2 between the blood and the tissues. The utilization of the O2 by the cell for the catabolic reaction and resultant release of the CO2, that is the cellular respiration, as dealt in the chapter number 14. The 17.2 is the mechanism of breathing. The breathing involves the two stages: the inspiration, during which the atmospheric air is drawn in, and the expiration, by which the alveolar air is released out. The movement of the air into and out of the lung is carried out by the creating the pressure gradient between the lungs and the atmosphere. Inspiration can occur if the pressure within the lungs, that is the intrapulmonary pressure, is less than the atmospheric pressure, that is there is a negative pressure in the lungs with respect to the atmospheric pressure. Similarly, the expiration takes place when the intrapulmonary pressure is higher than the atmospheric pressure. The diaphragm and the specialized set of the muscle, external and the internal internodes between the ribs, help in the generation of such a gradient. The inspiration is initiated by the concentration of the diaphragm, which increase the volume of the thoracic chamber in the anteroposterior axis. The contraction of the external intercostal muscle lifts up the rib and the sternum, causing the increase in the volume of the thoracic chamber in the dorsoventral axis. The overall increase in the thoracic volume causes a similar increase in the pulmonary volume. An increase in the pulmonary volume decreases the intrapulmonary pressure to less than the atmospheric pressure, which force the air from outside to move into the lungs, that is the inspiration. The relaxation of the diaphragm and the intercostal muscle returns the diaphragm and the sternum to their normal position and reduces the thoracic volume and thereby the pulmonary volume. This leads to increase in the intrapulmonary pressure, to slightly above the atmospheric pressure, causing the expulsion of the air from the lungs, that is the expiration. We have the ability to increase the strength and the inspiration and the expiration with the help of the additional muscle in the abdomen. On an average, the healthy human breathes the 12 to 16 times per minute. The volume of the air involved in the breathing movement can be estimated by using the spirometer, which helps to clinical assessment of the pulmonary functions. Now the 17.2.1 is a respiratory volume and the capacities. The tidal volume, that is the TV, the volume of the air inspire or expire during the normal respiration, it is approx the 500 ml. That is a healthy man can inspire or expire approximately 6000 to 8000 ml of air per minute. The inspiratory reserve volume, that is the IRV, additional volume of the air a person can inspire by the forcible inspiration. This average the 2500 ml to the 3000 ml. The expiratory reserve volume, that is the ERV, the additional volume of the air a person can expire by the forcible expiration, and this average is the 1000 ml to the 1100 ml. The residual volume, that is the RV, the volume of the air remaining in the lungs even after the forcible expiration, and this average is the 1100 ml to the 1200 ml. By adding up a few respiratory volume described above, the one can derive various pulmonary capacities which can be used in the clinical diagnosis. The inspiratory capacity, that is the IC, the total volume of the air a person can inspire after a normal expiration. This includes the tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume, that is the TV plus IRV. The expiratory capacity, that is the EC, total volume of the air a person can expire after a normal inspiration. This includes the tidal volume and the expiratory reserve volume, that is the TV plus ERV. The functional residual capacity, that is the FRC, the volume of the air that will remain in a lung after a normal expiration, and this includes the ERV plus RV. The vital capacity, the VC, the maximum volume of the air a person can breathe in after a forced expiration. This includes the ERV, the TV, IRV, or a maximum volume of the air a person can breathe out after the forced inspiration. Total lung capacity, that is the TLC, the total volume of the air accommodated in the lungs at the end of the forced inspiration, and this includes the RV, ERV, TV and the IRV, or a vital capacity plus the residual volume. Now the 17.3, the exchange of gases. Alveoli are the primary site of the exchange of the gases. The exchange of gases also occur between the blood and the tissues. The oxygen and the CO2 are exchanged in this site by a simple diffusion, mainly based on the pressure or concentration gradient. Solubility of the gases as well as the thickness of the membrane involved in the diffusion are also some important factors that can affect the rate of the diffusion. The pressure contributes by and the individual gas in a mixture of the gases is called as a partial pressure and is represented as a PO2 for the oxygen and the PCO2 for the carbon dioxide. The partial pressure of these two gases in atmospheric air and the two sides of the diffusion are given in table and in figure. The data given in the table clearly indicates the concentration gradient of the oxygen from the alveoli to the blood and the blood to the tissue. Similarly, a gradient is present present for the CO2 in a opposite direction, that is from the tissues to the blood and blood to the alveoli. As the solubility of the CO2 and the 20 to 25 times higher than that of the O2, the amount of the oxygen that can diffuse through the diffusion membrane per unit differences in the partial pressure is a much higher compared to that of the oxygen. The diffusion membrane is made up of the three major layers, that is namely the thin squamous epithelium of the alveoli, the endothelium of the alveolar capillaries, and the basement substances, that is composed of the thin basement membrane supporting the squamous epithelium and the basement membrane surrounding the single layer endothelial cells of the capillaries in between them. However, its total thickness is much less than the millimeter. Therefore, all factors in our body are the favorable for the diffusion of the oxygen from the alveoli to the tissue and that of the CO2 from the tissue to the alveoli. Now the 17.4 is a transport of the gases. The blood is a medium of the transport of the O2 and the CO2. About the 97% of the oxygen is transported by the RBC in blood. Remaining 3% of the oxygen is carried in the dissolved state through the plasma. Nearly 20 to 25% of the CO2 is transported by the RBCs, whereas 70% of it is carried as a bicarbonate. About the 7% of the CO2 is carried in the dissolved state through the plasma. Now the 17.4.1 is a transport of the oxygen. Hemoglobin is a red color ion containing the pigment present in the RBCs. The O2 can bind with the hemoglobin in the reversible manner to form the oxyhemoglobin. Each hemoglobin molecule can carry a maximum of the 4 molecules of the oxygen. Binding of the oxygen with the hemoglobin is primarily related to the partial pressure of the O2. The partial pressure of the CO2, hydrogen ion concentration and the temperature are the other factors which are therefore with this binding. A sigmoid curve is obtained when the percentage get saturation of the hemoglobin with the oxygen is plotted against the PO2. This curve is called as the oxygen dissociation curve and is highly useful in studying the effect of the factors like the PCO2, H plus concentration, etc. on bonding of the O2 with the hemoglobin. In the alveoli, where there is the high PO2, low PCO2, lesser the H plus concentration and lower the temperature, the factors are all favorable for the formation of the oxyhemoglobin, whereas in the tissues where the low PO2, high CO2, high H plus ion concentration and the high temperature exist, the conditions are favorable for the dissociation of the oxygen and from the oxyhemoglobin. This clearly indicates that the oxygen gets bound to the hemoglobin in the lung surface and get dissociated at the tissues. Every 100 ml of the oxygenated blood can deliver around the 5 ml of the oxygen to the tissues under a normal physiological condition. Now the 17.4.2 is a transport of the carbon dioxide, that is the CO2. CO2 is carried by the hemoglobin as a carbamino hemoglobin about the 20 to 25%, and this binding is related to the partial pressure of the CO2. PO2 is a major factor which could affect this binding, where the PCO2 is a high and the PO2 is a low as in the tissues. More binding of the carbon dioxide occurs, whereas when the PCO2 is a low and the PO2 is a high as in the alveoli. Dissociation of the CO2 from the carbamino hemoglobin take place, that is the CO2 which is bound to the hemoglobin from the tissue is delivered at the alveoli. RBCs contain a very high concentration of the enzyme carbonic anhydrase. A minute quantity of the same is present in the plasma too. This enzyme facilitates the following reaction in both directions, that is the CO2 plus H2O in presence of carbonic anhydrase, it forms the H2CO3, and in presence of the carbonic anhydrase, H2CO3 is converted into HCO3 minus plus H plus. At the tissue site where the partial pressure of the CO2 is high due to the catabolism, the CO2 diffuses into the blood, that is the RBCs and the plasma, and forms the HCO3 minus plus and the H plus. At the alveolar site where the PCO2 is low, the reaction proceeds in the opposite direction, leading to the formation of CO2 and the H2O. Thus the CO2 trap as a bicarbonate at the tissue level and transport to the alveoli is released out as the CO2. Every 100 ml of the deoxygenated blood deliver the approximately 4 ml of the CO2 to the alveoli. Now the 17.5 is a regulation of the respiration. The human being have the significant ability to maintain the moderate and the respiratory rhythm to suit the demand of the body's tissues. This is done by the neural system, a specialized center present in the medullary region of the brain called as a respiratory rhythm center is primarily responsible for this regulation. Another center present in the pons region of the brain called as a pneumotaxic center can moderate the function of the respiratory rhythm center. The neural signal from the center can reduce the duration of the inspiration and thereby alter the respiratory rate. The chemosensitive area is situated adjacent to the rhythm center, which is highly sensitive to the CO2 and the hydrogen ion. Increase in these substances can activate this center, which in turn can signal the rhythm center to make the necessary adjustment in the respiratory process by which these substances can eliminated. Receptor associated with the aortic arc and the carotid artery also can recognize the changes in the CO2 and H plus ion concentration and send the necessary signal to the rhythm center for the remedial action. The role of the oxygen in the regulation of the respiratory rhythm is quite insignificant. The 17.6 is a disorder of the respiratory system. Asthma is a difficulty in the breathing causes the wheezing due to the inflammation of the bronchi and the bronchioles. Emphysema is the chronic disorder in which the alveolar wall are damaged, due to which the respiratory surface is decreases. One of the major cause of this is the cigarette smoking. Now the occupational respiratory disorder. In certain industries, especially those involving the grinding or a stone breaking, so much dust is produces that the defense mechanism of the body cannot fully cope with the situation. The long exposure can give rise to the inflammation leading to the fibrosis or a proliferation of the fibrous tissues and thus causing the serious lung damage. The workers in such an industry should wear a protective mask. Now the summary of the breathing and the exchange of gases. The cell utilize the oxygen for the metabolism and produce the energy along with the substances like carbon dioxide, which is harmful. Animals have evolved a different mechanism for the transport of oxygen to the cell and for the removal of carbon dioxide from there. We have a well-developed respiratory system comprising the two lungs and associated air passage to perform this function. The first step is a respiration is a breathing by which the atmospheric air is taken in the inspiration and the alveolar air is released out, that is the expiration. Exchange of the O2 and the CO2 between the deoxygenated blood and the alveoli. The transport of these gases throughout the body by blood. The exchange of the O2 and the CO2 between the oxygenated blood and the tissue are utilization of the O2 by the cell, that is the cellular respiration, are the other steps are involved. The inspiration and the expiration are carried out by the creating the pressure gradient between the atmosphere and the alveoli with the help of the specialized muscle intercostal and the diaphragm. The volume of the air involved in these activities can be estimated with the help of the spirometer and are the clinical significance. Exchange of the oxygen and the CO2 at the alveoli and the tissues occur by the diffusion. The rate of the diffusion is depend on the partial pressure gradient of the O2, that is the PO2, and the CO2, the PCO2, their solubility as well as the thickness of the diffusion surface. These factors in our body is facilitate diffusion of the O2 from the alveoli to the deoxygenated blood as well as from the oxygenated blood to the tissues. The factors are favorable for the diffusion of the CO2 in the opposite direction, that is from the tissues to the alveoli. The oxygen is transported mainly as oxyhemoglobin in the alveoli where the PO2 is higher. The O2 gets bound to the hemoglobin, which is easily dissociated at the tissue where the PO2 is low. The PCO2 and the H+ concentration are high. Nearly the 70% of the carbon dioxide is transported as a bicarbonate, the HCO3- with the help of the enzyme carbonyl anhydrase. The 20 to 25% of the carbon dioxide is carried by the hemoglobin as a carbamino hemoglobin. In this tissue where the PCO2 is high, it gets bound to the blood, where in alveoli where the PCO2 is low and the PO2 is high, it gets removed from the blood. The respiratory rhythm is maintained by the respiratory center of the medulla region of the brain. The pneumotoxic center of the pons region of the brain and the chemosensitive area in the medulla can alter the respiratory mechanism. Thank you so much.